What's up, everybody? I just got done watching the 4 episodes released for Clevatess, or is it Clevatess? I'm just gonna say Clevatess for the purpose of this video. Clevatess is a fantasy anime that just recently released about a world where most of the known land is blocked off because it's ruled by powerful dark beasts. When introduced to this anime, I was very interested because I've personally always loved fantasy anime. My favorite piece of fiction is Berserk, so any kind of anime that has a medieval world with monsters in it is always gonna catch my attention. Just off the fact that as a Berserk fan, we haven't been able to actually have a good adaptation. I know y'all was a shitty 3D animation piece of shit. Never mind. Anyways, Clevatess has a really interesting setup so far. In the first episode, we're introduced to Alicia. Our main character, Alicia, was born in a rural village in the continent of the last remaining part of the world where it's not run by monsters. In the first few minutes of this first episode, we're revealed her motivation for why she wants to become a hero. That really stuck to me. Since in this world, everything but a single continent is overrun by monsters, she tells her father that she'll be a hero and make the world much bigger for us. That line, as simple as it is, gives a small look into who Alicia is. It shows that her goal comes from a personal place, wanting more than what her small village and limited world can offer. It's not about changing everything all at once, but about taking a first step forward towards something beyond what she's known. This little moment helps her ground her character and adds a layer of sincerity to the story that makes it easier to connect with. Earlier I mentioned how Alicia wants to become a hero. To get a little more into that, in this world the king selects certain people to take on that role. I'm not exactly sure what the criteria is, but I'd assume you have to be exceptionally skilled. I don't remember if the show goes too deep into it, but either way, those chosen are given special weapons made from a rare crystal that can actually harm the dark beasts. It's a pretty straightforward system, but it does a solid job of laying out how the world works. As a viewer, it helps the stakes feel more grounded and gives some context to why being a hero actually matters. It's not just a title, it's tied to survival in a world where options seem limited. In the first episode, we get a bit of world building, and this might be a hot take, but I felt like it was a little rushed. What I mean by that is we get a quick flashback with some light setup, and then suddenly we're thrown into a group of heroes facing off against this insanely overpowered monster that feels like he came straight out of like the Eclipse or some shit. It's not a big issue because I get what they're going for. It's meant to grab your attention early, set the tone, and show how dangerous the dark beasts really are. It's one of those openings that sacrifices a bit of pacing for impact. A little more build up or an extra scene or two would have helped smooth it out, I think, but it's nothing that seriously hurts the episode. I don't want to go too into spoilers, but if you've seen the Crunchyroll image or paid any attention to the promo material, it's clear that our main character ends up connected to this so-called evil monster and a child he's suddenly responsible for. I think the premise behind that setup is actually pretty solid. On one hand, you have this character who's just and kind with that typical hero mindset, someone who wants to protect and do the right thing, and on the other hand, you've got this monster lord thing who reacts with brutal force when people enter his territory. He doesn't hold back, there's no moral hesitation about it, and then there's a child, someone he seems to have or is starting to develop a soft spot for and seems to be the only piece of humanity he's still willing to engage with. One small thing I also didn't like was the bit of fan service they included. I'm personally not a fan of fan service in anime, so whenever it pops up, especially in shows that don't really need it, it just feels out of place to me. It didn't ruin anything, but it definitely took me out of the moment for a second. Once again, I don't want to go too into spoilers, so from here on I'll just talk about the animation itself. I think the animation is good, but it's not great. I don't know, maybe I've just been spoiled with the recent anime I've been watching, like Lord of the Mysteries, Gashi Akuda, and even Demon Slayer I've been recently catching up on. So it's not really fair to hold Clevatess to that same visual standard. Also, I don't know if it was just me, but the first few episodes of episode 1 looked like it was on 480p. I had to double check I was on 1080p, but it still looked grainy or some shit. Maybe it's the anime, maybe it's on me, I don't know, but it definitely stood out to me. The action sequences are good too. I really enjoyed the fights in episode 3 and 4. I can't really point out anything wrong with them. Maybe if I really looked into it, I could, but from an average viewer's perspective, they were fun and entertaining to watch. Overall, I really enjoy the premise of this show and the potential it has with its core setup. The dynamic between the characters, the mystery behind the world, and how it slowly hints at deeper themes all make it something worth keeping an eye on. I can't say I'm fully invested just yet. While the characters introduced so far have had a few moments to shine, the only one I'm remotely interested in so far is the one introduced in episode 3. And I would go into a deeper dive on them, but I don't want to say too much in case you haven't watched it. I just wish the show gave a little more time to build his characters early on instead of jumping from moment to moment so quickly. That said, it's only been 4 episodes, so who knows, maybe things will slow down and open up more as it goes. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, show some love. Peace.